Well, as we mentioned in the last Blue Jays video, we had the feeling Jose Bautista was going to sign back with the Blue Jays. And as of, what was it, yesterday, I think it was, more or less, I think it was 100% official earlier today. The Blue Jays have re-signed Jose Bautista to a one-year deal, and that is worth, $18 million. So it's a little bit more than his qualifying offer, not a whole lot more. Now, there are a couple other things to go along with that, are a couple options. There's two options with it. All right, so the first option obviously is for 2019. 2018. Get my years all mixed up. In 2018, if the Jays decide to pick up that option, it is a $17 million option. So, $1 million less if he has a good year and the Jays want to pick him back up. The year after that, if the Jays still like what he's producing, that option is $20 million. And after that, he's a free agent or will retire or whatever. He'll be 39, I think, or something at that point. But if at any point the Blue Jays want to buy that contract out, it would be, or both options can be bought out, and that will be for $500,000 for the buyout. So it would be a lot cheaper, obviously, than having him if need be, right? So that's okay. I'm fine with that. It's a good deal. You get him back. You have options to let him go if you need to. He accepted it. The man is back. And you think about what this guy has done for the Blue Jays. I understand last year he was hurt and what he demanded and all that, but think about what this guy's actually done, right? He's played 9 years with the Blue Jays. He has hit 265 home runs. He's played over 1,000 games, 700 ribbies, and a career 261, or, a Blue Jays career of 261. That's his average. Pretty darn good if you ask me. That's for a home run hitter, totally fine. He looked really good. And also, I was listening to Jeff Blair this morning and listening to what he had to say, and apparently, Rogers did give Mark Shapiro additional, money to sign Jose Bautista. So all the people yelling about, "Oh, Rogers, come on, you need to give them more money. Come on, you're being cheap," or whatever, whatever the deal may be. Now, I understand we didn't get Edwin, and they didn't go crazy over the top with giving funds, but they saw what the Blue Jays needed, and that was corner outfielders, because we desperately needed that. We've been talking about that all offseason, was that issue. And when we needed it the most, they gave it a little bit more, or I don't know how much they actually gave, but they gave it enough to sign Jose Bautista back, and I'm very happy to have him back. In the offseason, if they signed him before Edwin and he was still a free agent, I'd be furious, because Edwin should have been our main concern, right, at that point. But the way we have it now, it made sense. And we have him, and that's great. He's a player that is dynamite. He is a player that will bring energy to your team. He's a great player on the bench. We've seen that. We've seen all the handshakes. We've seen him laughing and joking around with all the guys all the time. Now, losing Edwin might be a big shot to take, but they're big leaguers. They have to go through it. It's what sports is. So I think getting Jose back, and I think you guys can all agree with me, especially with the two options as well, I think that's a great thing to have. I'm very pleased with what just happened. I'm very pleased with it, and I'm so happy that he's back, because it just wouldn't feel right not having Joey Bats in a Blue Jays uniform. I mean, it kind of does it with Edwin, but that's happened. Having Bautista not in a Jays uniform as well as Edwin, it just wouldn't feel right, and it wouldn't make sense. So they got one of the two. Ideally not the one that we wanted, but the much cheaper option. So that's okay in my eyes. They're doing okay right now, but they need a few things. We mentioned this in the last video about the backup catcher situation. There's still lots of things to go through with all of that. But a couple things I want to go through before we, wrap it up. Because really there's not much else to talk about. We kind of covered that in the previous Jays video. So we're just going to touch on a few things. You guys all remember JP Arencibia, correct? First round pick by the Blue Jays. Projected stud catcher that was going to be a great, great player. Well, he's retired after 6 years in the bigs. I think he was 31 or is 31, and he's decided to hang him up. You know, if you don't remember any big moments from JP, remember his first game as a Blue Jay in the bigs. I think he hit 2 home runs, or 2 or 3 home. I think it was 2 home runs, and he had a big game for the Jays, and he was a very likable guy, but could not take pitches, struck out a ridiculous amount, and it just went downhill from there. All the best to him in his life, really. I mean, he's still 31, got a long way to go. So all good stuff there. And hey, the Blue Jays got a new alternate jersey. They also named that earlier, so that's going to be interesting to see what they come out with there. But you know what? Back to the main things, the things that we care about, the things that affect the guys on the field, the players, right? And we've talked about, the corner outfielders. We've talked about the catchers. We've talked about the bullpen. We've talked about all that kind of stuff. Who do you think? I got a couple questions for you guys. Before we wrap all this up, though. What do you think the Jays should address next? The main one, if you had to pick one thing that the Jays had to address next, or you know what? Let's make it even more interesting. The Jays have one more offseason move before the offseason's over. What is that move? Is it a backup catcher, which they desperately do need? And if it's the last move you can make, I wouldn't say a corner outfielder because they have Upton, they have Zeke, and they have that. Okay, fine, whatever. Or do you go after a lefty reliever, which I think they desperately need? What do you guys think? I want to hear all what you guys have to say. You know what? I think I'm just going to wrap this up here, but I have a question for you guys. I'll say that when I do all the comment stuff. So, you know what, guys? That's going to do it for this one. If you guys enjoyed the video, hey, hit that like button. If you're happy that Jose's back, hit that like button as well, because you know what? At this point in the offseason, we needed to get him back, and we did just that. Subscribe if you guys haven't already, and comment down below your top 3 Blue Jay or Jose Bautista moments. Now that he's back, we can kind of look back a little bit. If you guys want to know mine, I mean, number 1 is obviously the bat flip. It's number 1, obviously. But 2 and 3 they were tough to choose for me. But I have to say number 2. Oh, jeez. See, it's a toss up. I'm gonna say number 2 was his 50 home runs, because that was an awesome season. He's pretty much crushing every ball he sees. And the last one, it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up between the tying home run last year against Seattle, even though we lost. I think we did lose that game. Nonetheless, he tied it up in the 9th inning, and because it was full of Jays fans there, fired up everybody. That was a great game. Or when against the Orioles, where he threw it behind him, he gave them kind of like the, you kidding me, kind of stare. And then the next pitch, he hit a shot and kind of enjoyed it around the bases. That was a great one, too. Let me know what you guys think of your top 3 Jose Bautista moments. And we'll talk to you guys very shortly. Not very shortly. A little bit later on tonight. Raptors edition. Raptors 76ers. And tomorrow night, Leafs edition. Leafs. Rangers. Talk to you guys then. See ya.